I believe this is political payback for my stand and opposition to overturning term limits without a referendum. We understand that everyone needs to share in the budget cuts, but there is a huge discrepancy between the 40% cut we took and the cuts that other elected officials and agencies have taken. It's not about doing more with less, as Mayor Bloomberg said, but in our case it's about leaving the next public advocate in a position to have to do something with nothing. The office exists to provide a check on a powerful mayor, and as such is a watchdog over city services. It's already chronically underfunded, with a budget that's been about half that of some of the borough presidents, just over $3 million at its height, or 1/200th of 1% of the total city budget. The bottom line is this office must have an independent budget. No single person or official should have as much power as the mayor and the speaker to be able to cripple a citywide office. Speaker Quinn is effectively starving this office out of existence, and New Yorkers who have no place else to turn for help are the ones who will suffer. As I said on Friday before the council voted to approve this budget, this is not about me. I have 6 months left in this office. It's about the institution. This is about good government. This is about doing right by the office and right for New Yorkers. I'd like to introduce first, please, by alphabetic order, Councilman Bill de Blasio.
Thank you, Public Advocate Gotbaum. I want to say that Betsy Gotbaum is entirely right when she says that this is an incredibly important office as a watchdog on the rest of city government, and particularly on the mayor, and that she has stood firm and spoken her conscience throughout her time in office, most notably at the point when we had to discuss the issue of term limits. She stood up, she expressed the will of the people, because the public advocate is supposed to be the voice of the people, and she said we should not pass the mayor's term limit bill. And there's no question that since then, the mayor has focused his negative attention on her. And I tell you, having gone all over the city, I think my colleagues in this campaign would agree, you hear people express tremendous gratitude to Betsy Gotbaum for having stood up and for then not taking advantage of the change in the law by running again herself. I think that was a particularly noble act. On this question, what's happened here is the mayor proposed an executive budget that obviously was intended to gut the public advocate's office. And that was wrong, especially after the fight on term limits made clearer than ever that the public advocate was one of the crucial places for the public's voice to be heard and for there to be a check and balance on the mayor. We can no longer leave offices that provide oversight, such as the public advocate's office, in the hands of a budget process run by elected officials that the public advocate is supposed to oversee and provide crucial watchdog role towards. I'm going to begin a legislative process. We started a few days ago. We're going to introduce legislation into the council that would lead to a referendum that would allow all offices, all citywide offices that provide oversight and provide a watchdog function to be budgeted for independently, according to a formula, much as we do with the Independent Budget Office. That should include the Public Advocate, the Comptroller, the Civilian Complaint Review Board, and the Conflict of Interest Board. All of them should not be at the whim of any mayor. You cannot ask an entity to provide oversight and provide a watchdog function over someone else who controls their budget. If that happens, their budget will be held hostage every single time. That's unacceptable. So we have to try and solve this immediate problem, and I hope we can soon with a budget modification. But there's a much bigger problem to address that this office and other offices need to be independently budgeted for, and I agree entirely with the public advocate on that, and thank her.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember. Now, Councilmember Eric Joya.
Thank you very much, Madam Public Advocate. To be clear, the watchdog's budget cannot be controlled by those she is watching. When the watchdog's budget, the tongue twister. You can say it 12 times, you get your budget back. When the watchdog's budget is controlled by those she is watching, it brings politics into it. It brings intimidation into it, and it brings factors that should not be under consideration. It's like in baseball, when the opposing pitcher throws a high hard one at a batter just to give them a warning. That should not be. Checks and balances are an important part of the city's government and an important part of American democracy. For checks and balances to be real, you need to have real independence. And independence begins with knowing that your budget will not be cut because you do good work or because you disagree with those in power. That is wrong. It sends a chilling. It has a chilling effect on democracy, and it has a chilling effect on checks and balances, and it needs to stop. The Public Advocate's Office should have an independent budget, pay to something else in the city, like the IBO, as is done in Washington with the Congressional Budget Office. There needs to be an independent check and balance on power in this city, and the watchdog's budget cannot be controlled very simply by those who are being watched.
Now former public advocate Mark Green.
Thank you, Betsy, Alec, Bill, and Eric. As the first public advocate and a student of this office, I'd like to put this controversy in a broader context. 178 years, whether the office was president of the Board of Aldermen, the president of the City Council, or the public advocate, whether it was held by Fiorello LaGuardia, Al Smith, or Betsy Gotbaum, this has been a adequately funded, charter-mandated office that presided over the City Council until last Friday, when there was an assault, not on Betsy Gotbaum personally or any of us as a successor personally, but on tens of thousands of abused children, seniors who need adequate transportation, people in emergency rooms at municipal hospitals, and hundreds of thousands of city taxpayers who have looked to this office as their defender within the bureaucracy. And it is absurd that an office that's intended to be a watchdog over City Hall is gutted by City Hall. Since when do speeders ban radar guns or Wall Street cut the SEC? Nor is it convincing for the mayor and the speaker to blandly say there's a financial crisis and all have to sacrifice. That's true as far as it goes, but that's not very far. Here's the question I would urge you and all of you in a position to simply ask the mayor and the speaker. Why has only the watchdog over City Hall been cut 40%? It's unprecedented, it's unjustified, it's unprovoked, and it's disproportionate. Let me repeat, why only the public advocate cut 40%? I agree with everyone here that, and have for years, we need, like the IBO, an independent budget tethered, for example, as it is to the OMB, so it can't be politically retaliated against. But if there's not a budget modification, if there's not a referendum, if there's not an independent budget, here's my vow: to do everything I can to try to convince the mayor to restore, by budget modification, the funds so seniors and children and patients have a defender. But if they insist on this extreme cut, then if necessary, I would be the mouse that roared, and to make sure that we would do more with much, much less. Thank you.
Mrs. Norman is not here. I'd like to introduce Alex Zablocki, who is the Republican candidate for public advocate.
Thank you. Thank you, Public Advocate Gotbaum, and thank you to my fellow Democratic opponents in this race for standing here together in a bipartisan manner, calling for an independent budget for this office, and calling what happened here last week a disgrace. The Public Advocate has been a fighter for the most unheard citizens of this city for years. Last year, her office and her staff helped over 12,000 people cut the red tape when they wanted to open up a small business, find New York City Housing Authority, find public housing, get food stamp benefits, and many other issues within our city that affect all of us. And it is vital that this office, the watchdog office over this city council and this mayor, is funded adequately so that this office can work effectively for the 8.5 million New Yorkers as an independent voice in our city. So I want to thank Public Advocate Gotbaum for speaking out about this, and I want to thank my Democratic opponents. And on the campaign trail, I will be calling for an independent budget. I join with them in unison, and if I am elected, I will fight to that end to make sure that this budget is independently funded when I take office or when any of these guys take office, because I think it's important for the people of New York City. Thank you.